Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. One of my upper-level finance classes in college had a significant community service component, where we would act as financial advisors for underprivileged adults at no cost. Organization and outreach were always major challenges, so the class was actually split into a real class component and an extracurricular club component. Essentially, you could either join the class, get credit but do more research, paperwork and effort, or join the club, have a resume builder but just do volunteer activities and administration. This approach allowed more people to help out with varying levels of effort. I had originally joined the club as it was my freshman year, and I didn't have the prerequisites to join the class, but I was very dedicated, so my professor made an exception for me. At the beginning of the semester, we were assigned a group and a local family to work with for the duration of the class. We had to interview the family several times and work with them to produce a 20-page comprehensive business plan that would count as our final exam grade. My group consisted of Grace, a junior who was only part of the club and just helping us out if she had time, and Kelsey, a senior who is the main antagonist of this story. Kelsey was extremely entitled and clearly had a severe case of senioritis. The class met twice a week, but she showed up so infrequently that when I mentioned she was my group mate near the end of the semester, no one even knew who she was. She told everyone that she was ill all the time, but somehow that excuse didn't go away the entire semester. It wasn't just the class either. She only showed up to one interview with the family and conducted the whole interview as if she was the expert on their case. When she was with me, she would talk about all the things she was planning on doing for the group, but she would never actually do anything. Halfway through the semester, when we showed our family the beginnings of our paper, she presented our plan to the family as if she had come up with it. Even though I wrote 8 pages, Grace had helped with just under a page, and Kelsey wrote one short introductory paragraph. I really would have dealt with Kelsey's antics if she had been your typical senior slacker who avoided the spotlight. But taking my work and claiming it as her own really upset me. She very clearly thought that I was some shy freshman who would never stand up to a big cool senior like her. Fortunately, I had suggested that we write our paper on a Google Doc, a way that we could all edit the same paper online without having to meet up or email it back and forth. Google Docs also tracks the individual edits that every person makes to the paper. This was a capability that Kelsey was not aware of. For the rest of the semester, I played it cool with Kelsey. I went along when she said she would do her work and acted as your average group member who trusted that she would do her share. Grace helped check over what I had written but ultimately had to focus on her actual exams and left the project to me and Kelsey. The weekend of the due date, Kelsey had still not touched the paper since she wrote her one paragraph, so I texted her a few times asking if she was planning on working on it. No response. I wrote several more pages and waited until the night before the paper was due. I texted her one last time. Still no response. At this point, if she had worked from when I texted her to when the paper was due, she could still not match the time I had put in, and she had no interview notes to even write about. I sent an email to my professor explaining that Kelsey had deserted me. I could prove very clearly she had written only one paragraph, and I would need an extension if I was going to finish the paper. A few hours later, I received an email from my professor saying she would take care of it and to come into her office the next day. The following morning, due day, while I was in another class, I started getting texts from Kelsey, then calls, more texts. I walked back home from class slowly so she would stew in stress. Then I called her back. She started out saying there must have been a mistake, because it seems our professor thought she had only written one paragraph of our paper. I told her that yes, I had explained that I needed more time to do all the work she was supposed to have done. She claimed that I was being ridiculous, and she had definitely written way more than one paragraph. I calmly explained that I was looking at the Google Doc edit history, and she had definitely written one paragraph. She grew audibly more hysterical, and started accusing me of reporting her like a child, and I told her that there would be nothing to report if she had done the work. Then she started shouting about how I was targeting her, and I should be mad at Grace too. That's right. She showed up so few times she was not aware that Grace was only a volunteer club member, and didn't have to write the paper. She really thought I wouldn't be able to tell her writing from Grace's, and she could pretend she had written more. Finally, she went off the rails, shouting something about how she had actually written 5 pages on another document that she was unable to actually produce, and that she didn't even need this course anyway, among other outlandish accusations. I told her that I had said all I needed to say, she wasn't going to touch my paper, and that if she didn't need the grade, she should be okay with failing, and hung up on her. I went to my professor's office and clearly proved the paper belonged to me with Grace's assistance. I could see Kelsey editing the document trying to steal what I had written, but that was stopped by a strongly worded email from my professor. I got a bit of extra time and ultimately received an A. Kelsey never showed up to class again. I never thought I'd be dealing with such a nightmare situation with my own mother. But here we are. It all started a few weeks ago when my sister finally decided to cut off contact with our mom and stop giving her money. Mom had always been manipulative, but this time she went too far. She told my sister this ridiculous lie to try and guilt her into sending more cash. It was so easily debunked that it actually caused some drama between me and my sister at first. But we quickly worked it out once we realized how absurd the whole thing was. That's when my sister decided she'd had enough, and went no contact with Mom, just like I had done a while back. Well, Mom did not take that well at all. She started harassing my sister nonstop. Even after my sister blocked her number, Mom kept finding ways to contact her. She even showed up uninvited at my sister's house that she shares with roommates. It was getting really out of hand. We tried going to the police, but they were absolutely useless. Me: "Officer, my mother won't stop harassing my sister. Is there anything you can do?" Officer: "Well, ma'am, there's not much we can do unless she actually threatens violence or becomes violent." Me: "What about a temporary restraining order?" Officer laughs: "Good luck with that." I was furious. It felt like a nightmare that no one would help us with. Following some advice I got online, I had my sister change her phone number. Things quieted down for a bit after that. But then Mom started leaving these drunken, rambling letters in my sister's mailbox. After the third one, we called the police again. The officer they sent out this time was even worse. He actually had the nerve to say to my sister, "Officer, if I had a daughter like you, I'd also be driven to drink." Can you believe that? We filed a complaint, but of course nothing came of it. At that point, my husband and I decided we needed to take matters into our own hands. We crunched some numbers and scraped together enough to hire a lawyer. I didn't know any personally, but a coworker who got divorced recently gave me the number of a family law practice. It cost us about $150, but we were finally able to send Mom an official cease and desist letter. For 3 blissful days after that, everything was quiet. We thought maybe it had worked. Then late one night, I got a call from my sister's best friend. She told me my sister was too shaken up to talk, but that the police were at their house and my mom had been arrested. My husband and I rushed over there immediately. By the time we arrived, the police had already taken Mom away. My poor sister was in the middle of a full-blown panic attack. Her roommates were trying their best to calm her down, but she was inconsolable. Seeing her like that broke my heart. The last time I'd seen her cry so hard was back in 9th grade when she thought she was failing biology. She's always been such a perfectionist, so scared of failing at anything. I had promised myself back then that I'd never let her cry like that again. But here we were, and it was all because of our mom. I felt like I had failed to protect her. Since my sister was too upset to explain what happened, her roommate filled us in. Roommate: "We were just getting ready to go see a late movie when your mom showed up out of nowhere. At first, your sister told her to just go home, But then your mom started screaming at her, and your sister kind of froze up. That's when I stepped in and told your mom I'd call the police if she didn't leave right away. Me, did that work? Roommate, it seemed to at first. She wandered off down the street and we thought it was over. But then we heard this loud crunching noise from outside. We looked out and saw that your mom had driven over the neighbor's mailbox. Me, oh my God, what happened next? Roommate, I called the police right away, but I guess the neighbors did too. The police showed up pretty quickly after that. Your mom refused to take a sobriety test, so they arrested her and took her away. I was livid. My mom could have seriously hurt someone driving in that condition, and the police had done absolutely nothing up to this point to prevent things from escalating to this level. The worst part was, I'm not even sure they would have arrested her if the neighbors hadn't called too. It's a pretty quiet neighborhood, and the couple next door are in their 50s or so. My sister's roommate said the police seemed more concerned with talking to them about the damaged mailbox than they did about my sister being harassed. Since my sister was still so shaken up, we brought her back to stay with us for the night. She passed out almost immediately, probably from sheer emotional exhaustion. My husband fell asleep not long after, but I just couldn't settle down. I was too angry about the whole situation. I kept thinking that if the police had just listened to us weeks ago when Mom first started harassing my sister, none of this would have happened. Now that Mom's actually been arrested, I'm hoping we'll have more options. Maybe we can finally get that restraining order. But it shouldn't have had to come to this. The next morning, my sister was calmer but still pretty rattled. Over breakfast, we tried to figure out our next steps. Me, how are you feeling this morning? Sister, a little better I guess, just tired and angry. Me, I know, me too. Listen, now that Mom's actually been arrested, I think we might be able to get a restraining order. Do you want to try that? Sister, I don't know, will it even do any good? The police haven't exactly been helpful so far. Me, I know, but this is different. There's an actual arrest on record now, and we still have that cease and desist letter from the lawyer. I really think we have a shot. Sister, maybe you're right, I just want this all to be over. Me, I know sis, we'll figure it out together, okay? After breakfast, I called the lawyer's office again to see what our options were. They confirmed that with the arrest, we had a much stronger case for a restraining order. We set up an appointment for later that week to get the ball rolling. In the meantime, we had to deal with the fallout from Mom's arrest. Apparently, she'd been released on bail and was blowing up everyone's phones trying to get someone to come pick her up from the station. We all ignored her calls, of course. Then she started calling other family members, spinning this wild story about how we'd set her up and gotten her falsely arrested. Most of them knew better than to believe her, but a few flying monkeys did reach out to berate us for being ungrateful children. Aunt, how could you do this to your own mother after everything she's sacrificed for you? Me, Aunt, you have no idea what's really been going on. Mom's been harassing us for weeks. She showed up at my sister's house drunk and destroyed property. We didn't set her up for anything. Aunt, I'm sure it's all just a big misunderstanding. You need to go bail her out right now. Me, absolutely not. We're done enabling her behavior. If you're so concerned, you're welcome to go bail her out yourself. I hung up after that. I was done arguing with people who refused to see the reality of the situation. A few days later, we went to meet with the lawyer. He looked over all the documentation we had, the police reports, the cease and desist letter, statements from my sister's roommates about what happened the night of the arrest. He seemed confident we had a strong case. Lawyer, based on everything you've shown me, I think we have an excellent chance of getting the restraining order approved. The arrest really helps solidify the pattern of harassment. Me, that's such a relief to hear. What do we need to do next? Lawyer, I'll file the paperwork with the court today. There will likely be a hearing scheduled in the next couple of weeks where a judge will review everything and make a decision. You'll both need to be there to testify. Sister, do you think Mom will show up too? Lawyer, it's possible but not guaranteed. Either way, don't worry. I'll be there with you the whole time. We left the lawyer's office feeling cautiously optimistic for the first time in weeks. There was finally light at the end of this long, dark tunnel. The day of the hearing arrived, and we were all nervous wrecks. Mom did show up, looking disheveled and angry. She tried to approach us in the hallway outside the courtroom, but a bailiff quickly intervened. "Mom, girls please, why are you doing this to me? I'm your mother." "Me, not now, Mom. We'll say what we need to say in front of the judge." Thankfully, the hearing itself went smoothly. The judge listened carefully to our testimony and reviewed all the evidence. In the end, he granted the restraining order without hesitation. "Judge, based on the evidence presented, I find clear and convincing proof of a pattern of harassment. The restraining order is granted for a period of 1 year, subject to renewal if necessary." As we left the courthouse, I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a start. For the first time in months, I felt like we could breathe again. Of course, Mom wasn't going to go down without a fight. She's already threatened to contest the order, but our lawyer assured us that's very unlikely to succeed given the mountain of evidence against her. For now, at least, we have some legal protection and peace of mind. It's been a long, difficult road to get here. There were times I wasn't sure we'd make it through, but standing together, my sister and I found the strength to break free from Mom's toxic behavior. We're still healing, still processing everything that's happened, but we're doing it together, and that makes all the difference. I never thought a simple drive home could turn into such a crazy situation, but here we are. Let me tell you about the entitled jerk I encountered on the road today. So there I was, driving along a side street, minding my own business and going the speed limit. Everything was normal, until this guy suddenly pulls out in front of me from a parking space at the curb. He came out so slow and recklessly that I almost hit him. The worst part, he didn't even bother to use his turn signal. At first, I thought maybe he was lost or something, so I slowed way down to give him space. But then things got really weird. This guy starts driving in front of me at a snail's pace, weaving back and forth like he couldn't decide which way he wanted to go. He was completely blocking the flow of traffic. Just when I thought he was going to turn right, he very abruptly veers left, cutting me off completely. I had to slam on my brakes to avoid hitting him. I honked my horn once, just to let him know I was there and he'd almost caused an accident. Well, apparently that single honk was enough to set this guy off. He stops his car right in the middle of the street, sideways no less, blocking traffic in both directions. Then he rolls down his window and starts screaming at me and flipping me off. I just sat there in my car, wondering if this guy had completely lost his mind. But it gets worse. This idiot actually opens his car door, still screaming and flipping me off, and gets out of his car. Then he starts threatening to beat me up. Now, I should mention that I'm a small woman, so this was pretty terrifying. I knew I had to do something, so I calmly picked up my phone. I didn't roll down my window or unlock my doors. I just very obviously started recording him. This guy was still marching up to my car, yelling his head off. The minute he saw me recording him on my cell phone, though, everything changed. It was like someone flipped a switch. He stopped screaming mid-sentence and suddenly became as meek as a mouse. Then, in the most bizarre turn of events, he tried to politely explain himself. Remember, my window was still up and I was still recording him. When I didn't stop recording or put the phone down, didn't react to him, and didn't say a word, he seemed to realize he was in trouble. He turned on his heel, ran back to his car, and drove off in the opposite direction like a bat out of hell. It's funny how the threat of going viral, possibly losing his job, and being exposed to the world as the jerk he is, and possibly a drunk jerk at that, can change someone's attitude so quickly. What could have been a police report and an assault turned into a frightened rabbit turning tail and running away terrified. After he left, I sat there for a minute, trying to process what had just happened. My heart was racing, and I couldn't believe how quickly things had escalated and then de-escalated. I decided to head to the police station to file a report, just in case this guy tried something like this with someone else. When I got to the station, I spoke with an officer about what had happened. Me: "Hi, I'd like to file a report about an incident that just happened on the road." Officer: "Sure. Can you tell me what occurred?" I explained the whole situation, from the reckless driving to the threats and how I started recording. Officer: Do you have the video with you? Me: Yes, I do. I showed the officer the video. He watched it carefully, then looked up at me with a slightly apologetic expression. Officer: Unfortunately, although we can clearly see the man and his car in the video, we can't see his license plate. When did you start filming? Me: I only started when he got out of his car. It was stopped sideways, about 10 feet ahead of me, blocking me in. Officer: And which direction did he go when he left? Me: He took off in the opposite direction from where I was facing. I didn't try to chase him or anything. The officer nodded, then said, Officer: I'm sorry, but there's not much we can do in this situation. Other than yelling, he didn't physically do anything to you or your car. But we can at least keep a record of his face and car in case he pulls something like this again. I was a bit disappointed, but I understood. At least there was now a record of the incident. Officer: One more thing, I'd advise against posting this video online. Me: Really? Why's that? Officer: Posting the video might bring you more attention and trouble than you want to deal with. It's best to keep this private for now. I nodded, feeling relieved. I'm usually a pretty private person anyway, so I was glad for the advice. Me: Thank you, officer. I appreciate your help. As I left the police station, I couldn't help but replay the incident in my mind. It was scary how quickly things had escalated, all because of one entitled jerk who couldn't handle being honked at. But I was proud of myself for staying calm and using my phone to defuse the situation. Over the next few days, I found myself being a bit more cautious on the road. I kept thinking about what could have happened if I hadn't thought to start recording. It was a stark reminder of how unpredictable people can be, especially when they're behind the wheel. A week later, I was having coffee with my best friend and telling her about the incident. Best friend: That's insane. I can't believe someone would act like that over a simple honk. Me: I know, right? It was like he completely lost his mind. Best friend: But you handled it so well. I don't know if I would have been that quick thinking. Me: Honestly, I surprised myself. I just knew I had to do something to protect myself. Best friend: Do you think he'll ever do something like that again? Me: I hope not. Maybe the shock of being recorded will make him think twice before threatening someone over his own bad driving. As we continued chatting, I realized how fortunate I was that the situation hadn't turned out worse. It could have easily become a dangerous confrontation, but instead, it ended with the guy running away with his tail between his legs. In the weeks that followed, I found myself more aware of my surroundings when driving. I started paying more attention to the cars around me, always ready to react if someone started driving erratically. It wasn't that I was scared to drive, but I definitely had a new appreciation for how quickly things could go wrong on the road. One day, about a month after the incident, I was driving down the same street where it had all happened. As I passed the spot where the guy had cut me off, I couldn't help but smile a little. What had been a terrifying moment at the time now seemed almost comical in retrospect. This grown man throwing a tantrum in the middle of the street, only to turn into a scared little kid the moment he realized he was being recorded. I also thought about how differently things might have gone if I hadn't had my phone with me, or if I hadn't thought to start recording. It made me grateful for technology and how it can be used to protect ourselves in unexpected situations. As I continued my drive, I realized that while the incident had been scary and frustrating at the time, it had also taught me something valuable. It showed me that I could keep my cool under pressure, and that sometimes the best way to deal with an aggressive person is to simply document their behavior. I hope that guy learned something too. Maybe next time he gets angry on the road, he'll think twice before jumping out of his car and threatening someone. And if he doesn't, well, there's always someone with a camera phone ready to capture his bad behavior. In the end, I'm just glad that what could have been a dangerous situation turned into nothing more than an unpleasant memory and a story to tell. It's a reminder that even in the face of irrational anger and entitlement, staying calm and using your resources can often be the best defense. Little information heading into this. I work in the auto industry, dealership parts department to be exact. This means I have a uniform, which is slacks, shoes, and a polo shirt and jacket in the automaker's colors, with their name embroidered on the left chest. At the time of this incident, I worked for an auto manufacturer whose logo is a big T in an oval. The internal name is the sombrero. This meant my polo shirt was black with red sides and a huge red T logo along with the dealer's name on it. So here we go. Back in March, I'd just gotten off my late shift. The dealer I was with at the time was open till 7. On the way home, I stopped at Big Mart that used to use a smiley logo, where employees wear blue vests, to get some groceries for dinner, along with flowers for my dad and stuff to make a cake for my mum's birthday. A lot of significant dates happen in the first 2 weeks of March for our family. When I go shopping, I usually put in my Bluetooth earbuds, as I don't want to talk to people, and it helps deter those annoying cable, internet power salespeople that roam the aisles of this store trying to sell you their crap. My headphones at the time were a pair of Adidas Adastar by Monster. They were Bluetooth with a cord between the two and a little inline controller on the right side. This is relevant later. Now I'm in the store. It's about 7:25 p.m. and I've got my earbuds in. I'm in the baking aisle looking for castor sugar. Our Mart of Walls does carry it, and I notice someone off to my right. I don't think anything of it. It's a steady evening for them. This location is always busy. I finally settle on some sugar and go to reach for it when I feel a sharp pain in my ears, followed by someone yelling at me. I turn and yell, "What the heck?" and I'm face to face with a woman maybe 40-ish, about my height, 5 feet 10. She's dressed quite smartly. High-heel boots, leggings, an expensive-looking coat, shoulder-length hair, earrings that look painfully heavy, yelling at me and holding my headphones. She had grabbed the controller and yanked them out as I couldn't hear her talking to me. She starts telling me off that it's very unprofessional for me to be wearing headphones while working. How dare I talk to her like that? And that she's been trying to get my attention as she needs me to fetch her something. I snap back that I don't work and demand my earbuds back. She responds that I obviously do from how I'm dressed and that I'm just lazy, then looks at my headphones in her hand with a smirk and says, "You won't be needing these," proceeds to throw them on the ground and start stomping on them. I'm furious and start shouting at her, "WTF makes her think I work here," and proceed to point at the logo on my shirt and call her a moron. At this point, a crowd has started to gather at either end of the aisle to see what all the commotion is. I guess an employee had heard something and called a manager or security, as someone in a white business shirt with a company lanyard around their neck came down the aisle to break us up and see what was happening. She immediately starts going off at him about how lazy and unprofessional his employees are, and how she wants to talk to corporate. He turns to me and starts to ask why I was ignoring her and wouldn't help her when he notices my shirt. "You don't work here, do you?" as he's staring at me. "No, I work at insert dealer name up the road. I'm just here to pick up a few things and this psycho attacked me." He apologizes and asks me if she hurt me, and I respond with, "Just my ears," when she yanked the earbuds out and then stomped them. She starts snarling that I'm lying, that I'm an idiot and I need to be fired. He turns to her, picks my headphones up and tells her that he does not approve of violence in his store, and that authorities are already on their way. The police station is 1.5 miles from the store. He asks me to check my headphones to see if they work. Shocker, they don't. When she yanked the controller, it must have damaged the wires, as the right one cuts in and out. I say as much. We've now been escorted to the front of the store by customer service, and sure enough 2 officers are standing by the counter. They took statements from both of us, her flailing her arms about as she gave hers. One of the officers then went with the store manager to review the cameras. The entire time we were waiting with the officer, she kept mouthing off how I'm gonna get in so much trouble when she's proven right and innocent, and that she hopes that they will lead me off in cuffs. The officer with us just told her to be quiet till they were done. The manager and officer come back out after a few minutes, and the officer asks, "Would you like to press charges?" She starts going, "Yes, please, officer. I don't want someone like this out in public." His response, I was actually talking to him while gesturing to me. I say yes, I would, as my ears still hurt and she broke my earbuds. She's sputtering and coughing like my little classic car on a cold morning, whining that she's the victim. They ask me if I can verify the amount the headphones cost when I bought them new, as she'll be required to reimburse me. Thank you Big Blue Electronics Store for online account purchases. In the end she had to give me the $100 the earbuds had cost me, which went towards my new Klipsche McLaren Edition T5 earbuds, and they escorted her out of the store. They gave me the flowers for my father's gravesite and a cake for my mum's birthday as an apology. It didn't end there though. She called the dealer I work at because their name was embroidered on my shirt to complain about me and the trouble I caused her, but nothing happened and I wasn't fired. /. When it comes to helping a friend, you'd be surprised what you're capable of. It all started when my buddy went through a nasty divorce. He lost almost everything, including custody of his daughter. The whole situation was a mess, and I couldn't stand seeing him so broken. During the custody battle, things got really unfair. My friend tried to show evidence that his ex-wife wasn't fit to be a primary caregiver. He even had pictures of drugs and paraphernalia lying around her house when he picked up his daughter. But the judge shut him down hard. Friend, Your Honor, I have photographic evidence of illegal substances in my ex-wife's home, where my daughter spends most of her time. Judge, you had no right to take pictures in her house. This evidence is inadmissible. Friend, but Your Honor, my daughter's safety is at risk. Judge, one more outburst like that and I'll hold you in contempt of court. His lawyer at the time was useless. Didn't even try to argue on his behalf. My friend was devastated, and that's when a group of us decided to step in. We all chipped in to get him a better lawyer, one who actually knew what they were doing. This new lawyer managed to get the case moved to a different judge, which was a small victory. But we needed more. Now here's where things get interesting. I have this coworker, let's call him Tom, who's always bragging about his encounters with workers. He's got hidden cameras all over his apartment and loves showing off his videos. Usually, I tune him out, but one day he wouldn't shut up about this super hot woman he'd met. Tom, hey, you gotta see this one, she's smoking hot. Me, Tom, I'm really not interested. Tom, come on, just take a look, you won't believe it. I gave in, figuring it would shut him up. But when I saw the video, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was my friend's ex-wife. Me, hey Tom, could I get a copy of that video? Tom, sure thing man, glad you finally came around. I sent the video to my friend's lawyer, thinking it would be the smoking gun we needed. But it wasn't enough. Lawyer, this is just video with no context. We need proof that she's actually working as an escort. So I went back to Tom for more information. Me, hey Tom, remember that woman from the other day? How'd you meet her? Tom, oh, I found her ad online. Here, I'll send you the link. I forwarded the ad to the lawyer. But even that wasn't enough. Lawyer, anyone can post an ad. We need solid evidence of her actually engaging in that work and drug dealing. That's when we decided to go all out. A bunch of us pooled our money together to hire a private investigator. It took 2 months of work, but eventually, we got what we needed. The day we presented the evidence to the court was intense. My friend was a nervous wreck, but I could see a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Friend, do you really think this will work? Me, we've done everything we can. Let's hope the judge sees the truth. As the evidence was presented, the atmosphere in the courtroom changed. The judge's expression went from neutral to concerned to downright angry. Judge, in light of this new evidence, I'm ordering an immediate change in custody arrangements. Full custody is granted to the father, effective immediately. My friend's ex-wife looked shocked, then furious. Ex-wife, this is all lies, you can't do this. Judge, ma'am, the evidence speaks for itself. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into potential child abuse and neglect charges. It was a whirlwind after that. Child Protective Services got involved, and before we knew it, my friend's ex-wife was arrested. Turns out the drug dealing and child neglect were even worse than we thought. My friend was overwhelmed with emotion when it was all over. Friend, I can't believe it. My little girl is safe now. How can I ever thank you guys? Me, you don't need to thank us. We're just glad we could help. It took months of work, a lot of money, and some morally questionable methods. But in the end, we got justice for my friend and his daughter. His ex-wife ended up in jail, not for the sex work or drug dealing specifically, but for child abuse and neglect. It wasn't the outcome we expected when we started this journey, but it was the one that mattered most. The custody battle was finally over, and my friend could focus on being the best dad he could be. As for me, well, I learned that sometimes you have to go to extreme lengths to do the right thing. It wasn't always pretty, and I'm not proud of every step we took, but seeing my friend reunited with his daughter made it all worth it. Looking back, I still can't believe how it all unfolded. What started as a simple desire to help a friend turned into a complex web of hidden cameras, private investigators, and courtroom drama. It's not something I ever want to go through again, but I know I'd do it all over if I had to. The whole experience changed me. I saw firsthand how the system can fail people, but also how determination and the right resources can turn things around. It wasn't just about winning a custody battle, it was about protecting an innocent child from a dangerous situation. I often think about my friend's daughter, and how different her life could have been if we hadn't intervened. She was caught in the middle of an ugly situation, used as a pawn by her mother, and exposed to things no child should ever see. Now, she has a chance at a normal, healthy childhood with a father who loves her more than anything in the world. As for my coworker Tom, I keep my distance now. His lack of discretion and questionable lifestyle choices ended up being the key to unraveling this whole situation, but it also opened my eyes to a world I'd rather not be part of. I'm grateful for the role he inadvertently played, but I can't look at him the same way anymore. The private investigator we hired became something of a hero in our friend group. Their meticulous work and dedication to uncovering the truth were truly impressive. It made me realize how much goes on beneath the surface that we never see, and how professionals like that can make all the difference in legal battles. In the end, justice was served, but it came at a cost. My friend had to relive some of the worst moments of his life, expose his ex-wife's darkest secrets, and weather a storm of legal and emotional turmoil. But when I see him with his daughter now, laughing and playing without a care in the world, I know it was all worth it. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.